Volume is king, or so they will try to yell at you. But honestly, efficiency is a way better indicator because with volume, it's always nice to use that to predict a decent floor. But efficiency, that is where huge upside comes into play. Yo, Headliner Nation, last week I did my Volume Monsters off-season videos, and this week we follow it up with the insane efficiency version. Same exact concept. I go through and I take a bunch of efficiency categories, then we go through at the end and average them out to find out who finished highest throughout these categories, and I'll also show you the biggest changes from volume to efficiency, whether it was positive or negative. Before we start though, I want to give away a draft guide in this video, so make sure you watch till the end because a little bit later in the video, I'm going to tell you how you could win one. You better smack that like button and subscribe right now because these videos could make you a fantasy champion. Yards per attempt is never a great indicator, but it is an efficiency indicator nonetheless, and we include it in this show. Aaron Jones, Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson, these three guys finishing within the top 4 of yards per attempt. This shouldn't surprise you. Honestly, if you're a fan of this channel or you watch the film, these guys have huge burst and big playability every time they touch the ball. And then you got a guy like Nick Chubb, who consistently, year after year after year, seems like he finishes averaging over 5 yards a carry. I love looking at yards after contact per attempt because it gives you a really good idea of how players absolutely run through the opposing defenses. They're always going to give you a little bit of extra because they're so hard to bring down. And my boy, Ramondre Stevenson at the top, the absolute animal himself. Woohoo! One of the reasons why I think he's in for a big year. Damien Pierce, when I did my video breakdown on him before last season, I said one of his best attributes was running hard and making people miss. And his finish here backs all of that up. And Aaron Jones actually finished pretty high as well, even though for the most part, a lot of people felt like he had a disappointing season. And Damien Pierce, again, being #1 overall in avoided tackles per attempt, doesn't surprise anybody who did the research. This guy is great at making people miss. The big issue is, though, where will the volume be this year, knowing that he broke down at the end of last season after not really having the volume throughout his college career? And seeing a guy like Christian McCaffrey so low is always very weird because the dude does make people miss, but a lot of times he won't make them miss as much as he will just run through them. So that does maybe help in yards after contact per attempt, but it doesn't necessarily help in avoided tackles. It's absolutely insane to look at yards per target and see Derrick Henry's name. Yep, that's right there. Let me make sure. Nope, my glasses are on. That is Derrick Henry at the top. Another reason why we just continue to beg the Tennessee Titans to get him involved in the passing game. Travis Etienne at #2. Again, this guy in the passing game did some work last season. It'll be interesting to see if they get him a little bit more involved this year, which will be difficult knowing how many weapons they already have. When Saquon Barkley came out of college, he was known for his pass catching ability, and we even saw in his rookie year. But I don't know if this is going to be the same offense that has utilized him in the passing game like they have in the past. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a little bit concerned about him this year, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Yards per reception, basically the standings are about the same, but I want to point out guys like Aaron Jones and even Brian Robinson. These guys, even though they ranked a little bit lower in yards per target, they ranked a little bit higher in yards per reception, which is always something that I love to see because it means they're generating, we'll say, a little bit more than what the other guys are. But Brian Robinson? I know a lot of people love Antonio Gibson as a pass catcher, but keep an eye out on this guy. And of course, in yards after the catch per reception, you see Aaron Jones and Brian Robinson show up within the top 10 here. Based on what I just said, that makes complete sense. But again, are we just going to glaze over the fact that Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb are in the top 3? Get him involved in the passing game. All right, but the reason we're all here is because we want to know how this translates into fantasy points. How are these guys scoring? I mean, I can break that down pretty easy for you, but I can also tell you that everyone watching, you also have a much better chance of scoring if you head over to manscaped.com and use code word headliners. Listen, no one wants to cuddle up to you during the summer when you're hot and sweaty because you haven't been taking care of yourself. Do it right now. Head to manscaped.com, code word headliners at checkout. You're going to get 20% off your entire order and free shipping. Do it now so you can score just like these guys. Now, points per touch is always interesting to see because if a guy is on the field an awful lot, maybe his points per touch are a little bit lower, and it's just because he plays more snaps, and maybe he doesn't get the touches that some of the other volume guys get. And sometimes you can point that out. But for guys that are only on the field in like a specialized role, it kind of helps us determine what are they doing when they do get on the field. So a guy like Jamal Williams that split a lot of time last year with DeAndre Swift, he was a specialized kind of role. I know he scored 17 touchdowns, but that's why, because when he was getting in the game in those situations, he was putting the ball in the end zone. He was picking up points when he was out there. But now we hop over to points per touch because we really get an opportunity to see when the guys get the ball in their hands, what are they doing? And Jamal Williams, again, sees a big drop from points per snap to points per touch. But seeing a guy like Aaron Jones and Ramondre Stevenson towards the top tells us that because they are getting the job done, when they get the ball, they are going to have a really nice upside to them. Now, at times, maybe they don't get the volume that we would like from stud running backs, but these guys are studs. And the efficiency does a really good job of telling us, hey, if we give them a little bit more volume, we could see a lot more upside. Boom, let's break it down every running back now, see what they averaged out in terms of efficiency categories, and you're gonna see numbers next to them as well to show the difference between where they are in this video compared to the volume video I did last week. Nick Chubb has been at the top of my efficiency videos ever since he came into the league, so it's no surprise to see that he is 9 spots higher in efficiency than he is volume. And will that change this year given the fact that there's no more Kareem Hunt? Possibly, but I do expect this offense to also throw more than it has in the last few years. Bada bing, bada boom, the king himself, Derrick Henry, he stays at the top of volume and efficiency. He was a little bit lower in volume, but he is 3 spots higher in efficiency, showing everybody that if you do get a lot of volume, there isn't just this necessary drop off in efficiency that everyone believes happens. And I see those comments a lot. Kyle, yeah, if they get more volume, they're obviously going to be less efficient. That isn't always the case. And when you've got a guy like Derrick Henry that does the best of both worlds, smack the draft button. When you see a guy like Travis Etienne and Aaron Jones right next to Christian McCaffrey, it makes a lot of sense because I believe their gameplay can be very similar. And you see it in the changes as well. Plus 10 for Etienne and plus 7 for Aaron Jones. Yeah, they may not have gotten as much volume as we would have liked last year, especially Travis Etienne, who wasn't the starter at the beginning of the season. But man, did they put in some work when they were getting the touches. And for Christian McCaffrey, he does drop a little bit from volume to efficiency, but is not nearly enough to scare me, especially after a full year now in San Francisco. Josh Jacobs is kind of in the same boat. He saw a huge amount of volume last year, but he only drops 3 spots in efficiency. That isn't nearly a big enough drop to scare me. We're in on him again this season because even if the volume does take a little bit of a drop, we know that he can offer us a lot of efficiency as well. Ramondre Stevenson at +2. I thought it would have been a little bit higher from volume all the way up to efficiency, but the amount of work that he got in the passing game really kind of kept it balanced for him last year. Now, what will we get this coming year? Maybe a little bit of a drop in the passing game, but we should see those numbers on the ground tick up. Austin Eckler, the RB1 overall last year, yeah, absolutely propelled up the boards by volumes, amount of targets and touches in the passing game, and how many times he scored. Some of those efficiency issues may have been contributed to the fact that they had some injuries last year, so it'll be interesting to see, hey, maybe if the volume does drop back a little bit this season, if the efficiency ticks back up, if Mike Williams and Keenan Allen can stay healthy, with Quentin Johnston in the mix now. Dalvin Cook drops 3 spots, but I think these numbers do a really good job of showing us that he's got something left in the tank. And I think whoever ends up picking him up will be pretty happy with his production this year. Kenneth Walker, who has Zach Charbonnet right on his hind end now, listen, he's got a +5 when it comes from volume to efficiency. Even if Zach Charbonnet comes in and is a guy that gets a third of the touches, Kenneth Walker still a top 12 option for me at the position because of his potential efficiency. Is it going to be enough to finish as a high RB1? Probably not. But as long as he gets a decent amount of volume and he's as efficient as we see here in the stats, he should be top 12. Pretty easy. We got a couple of vets back-to-back with a lot of question marks. Alvin Kamara, his question marks are around a potential suspension. But we know last year was not his best season. But he did see a 5-spot jump from volume to efficiency. The guy still has it. So now with Derek Carr in town, maybe Michael Thomas being healthy, second year for Chris Olave, maybe we see if he gets some of that volume, if he plays, if he still has it in the tank to be a top 12 player. Joe Mixon, on the other hand, drops 5 spots from volume to efficiency. He just was not efficient last year. You could see it, and for whatever reason, I don't know. There's been a lot of question marks around him this offseason, and I believe at the beginning of the year last year, it was really when the offensive line just was not gelling the way that it should have. They've made some moves to reinforce it even more. So if it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year. But here's the thing, okay? Hold your horses. Joe Mixon isn't going to cost as much as he did in years past. He might cost like a 3rd rounder this year. And if he does find the efficiency again, he might be the biggest steal of the draft season. Damien Pierce, he lost a lot of volume at the end of last season because he got hurt. So it wasn't surprising to see him a lot lower in the volume video than what we maybe would have thought. But we see a 4-point jump in efficiency just because the dude does such a great job of making people miss and running hard. Jamal Williams drops 2 spots because, again, wasn't super efficient, but what saved him here was just the overall amount of fantasy points scored and the fact that he didn't play nearly as many touches as some of the top running backs in the league because DeAndre Swift was still getting a lot of work last season. Saquon Barkley, an 11-spot drop from volume to efficiency. And I have brought him up in videos already this offseason. You are going to see his name brought up again. From an efficiency standpoint last year, Barkley was not good. He was held up by his volume. It's going to be interesting to see what the offense does this season in New York, especially considering really the only big move they made during the offseason to help it was on the wide receiver side in the draft. What are we going to be getting from them this year? And if we spend an early pick on Saquon Barkley and he doesn't get the volume we need, will we be disappointed? Miles Sanders had an overall good year last year, but honestly, yes, he did good running the football, and yes, he got you a lot of touchdowns, but outside of that, it wasn't a whole lot. So will the efficiency be as good? It wasn't even that great here. So when people in the video say, guys, why are you so in on Miles Sanders? If he was so efficient while he was in Philadelphia with that offensive line, there's no way he's going to do that again in Carolina. But that right there, this video shows you why that argument isn't valid, because he wasn't that efficient last year anyway. And because of that, as long as he gets a decent amount of volume, he should still be a decent fantasy option for you. Brian Robinson, again, not really surprised to see him down this low because he just didn't get the amount of work and was as sharp in that work maybe as some of the other guys. But that's okay. It's part of the reason why he's getting another look this year. Now he's coming into the year fully healthy instead of that crazy injury last year where he got shot. So unlucky that that happens, but maybe that had something to do with why these numbers are the way they are. And the other biggest loser in this video is Najee Harris, a 10-spot drop from volume. But again, he started the season injured last year and played that way for a majority of the time. Kenny Pickett wasn't that great. Awesome offensive line, okay at best. But they did spend a draft pick, a high draft pick to help the offensive line. Hopefully a second year for Kenny Pickett brings a lot of growth. They have tons of wide receiver weapons. Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. Both of those guys can receive and they can block. So you could essentially put 7 offensive linemen on the field at any time, giving Najee Harris plenty of holes to run through. Quite honestly, I haven't been a fan of Najee Harris in the past, but this year, I absolutely love the potential. These numbers are indicative of what happened last year, not what could happen next year. Headliner Nation, I think I chewed your ear off enough. This was a longer video. I'm gonna get out of here though. Hit the like button for me, subscribe if you're new here, and in the comments down below, let me know something interesting that you thought of or you got from this video that you think everybody needs to hear. If we get 750 likes on this video, I'm gonna go ahead and give away a draft guide to someone that does comment below. Peace out, Headliner Nation. I'll see you on the flip side. Check you later.